Titanfall 2 is something of a second chance for Respawn Entertainment. When the first game came out, it was an Xbox One exclusive, and at a time when the console was still struggling to pick up players. With the second game, it's coming out on both Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and it's also the first game to have a fully fledged story mode. Now that's really important because it should appeal to a much larger base of players.
Titanfall 2 really is our chance to kind of start over in some ways while keeping what was really cool about the first game. So even though it was wildly successful, it was not available on PlayStation 4 and it didn't have a single player story mode. So we really did approach a lot of the aspects as a lot of people are going to be playing this game for the first time, so we can't take anything for granted. So it is definitely a difficult balancing process because you don't want the existing players to feel like first game didn't matter, but you also don't want new players to feel like they're left out of the loop. So it's just something you always got to be aware of while you're making the game. It's actually pretty difficult to make a single player Titanfall 2. We tried just taking the mechanics of multiplayer from the first game and kind of putting it on to a single player game that you would expect, and it doesn't work. We wasted a decent amount of time trying to make that work. And it's mainly because the pilot can go anywhere and do anything, and we wanted to be able to get in and out of your Titan at any time. So we ended up having our designers go off and try and figure out, okay, what can you actually do that's fun in Titanfall by yourself without breaking the game? And so for a week at a time, they each made these things called action blocks, we called them. And they were just like, they could be anything. It could be a weapon, a mechanic, a level idea. It didn't matter. We just had to figure out what was cool to do by yourself. And at the end of that, we had maybe, I don't know, 102 of those, and figured out which ones weren't fun, which ones were fun. And then designers started making levels based off of the really fun ones.
Trust me.
We struggled a little bit because of a lot of our past has been in ooh-rah, big explosion, loud, loud, loud. To be able to allow the player to soak up a quieter moment, just look at a nice vista read and kind of soak it all in. But I think we've actually struck a really good balance. Like the pacing of it all works really well together. At the same time, Steve Fukuda, our game director, and some writers started figuring out what the story of the game would be.
What are your protocols?
Protocol 1, link to pilot.
He wanted to focus on kind of that pilot-Titan connection, that relationship between the two. It's not something you can do too much in multiplayer because they explode all the time. But in single player, we're getting a little bit more ability to go deep on it. So it's kind of those two tracks together combined to make a game that when people see it, they're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that at all from you guys. It's not just a scripted, cinematic, linear game. It's a little bit different. We have a lot of variety of gameplay, and a lot of it is driven by the fact that the game wants to be played more than just a shooter. There's some platforming elements, there's some puzzle elements, and a lot of the people who actually bought or were interested in the first game would have classified themselves as an action-adventure gamer more than a shooter player. So that actually helped us be comfortable with the fact that you're not always shooting guys. Like there are sections where you go minutes upon minutes of not shooting, and that's fine because that's what this game kind of wants to become. It is a little bit more family-friendly in nature. Like we've got some over-the-top characters, we've got some, a little bit of levity, some comedy, if you will, in there. But it is more of like a high adventure. Like Indiana Jones will murder 10 guys, but it's Indiana Jones. It's all in good fun. Same type of way our game is, trying to get a little bit more of that vibe to it as opposed to the dark, gritty, serious, this is war feel.
Protocol 3. Protect the pilot.
There's a bit of a buddy cop vibe. There's a fish out of water vibe because the player is actually not supposed to be a pilot. He's a grunt who gets a battlefield promotion from a pilot as in his dying breath and hands control of his Titan over to you.
My original pilot was KIA. I am now linked to Rifleman Jack Cooper.
There are a lot of aspects we've pulled from movies and games that we've played that we really like. Inspiration from a lot of Valve games, like the way they've told stories in Half-Life and Portal. There's some movie references like Terminator 2 with the way the Terminator was treated, and we have a whole lot of inspiration from pop culture over the last 30, 40 years that a lot of it we wear on our sleeve, but some of it's a little bit more subdued.
Stand by for Titanfall.
I'm really excited for both Call of Duty and Battlefield. We all play games especially shooters. Cannot wait to see what everyone else has been doing. But that said, I feel like no matter what, we've crafted a game that is unlike anything else. So I think it's going to stand like off to the side of everyone else. It's not necessarily the head-to-head that everyone might think it's going to be. We're making a game that we think is fun, and our philosophy has always been, if we like it, there's probably going to be other people out there who like it as well.